beautiful soul, and welcome back to my channel. Today I would love to invite you to do some art journaling with me, inspired by the wonderful fall season, autumn colors, and we will be exploring collage and painting, doing an art journal spread, and I will also be talking about what inspires me, how I approach creativity and intuitive expression. Okay, so here is a whole array of inspirational pieces, and it's a little bit overwhelming, but I just want to show you everything that I have gathered that inspires me. And even though I'm not going to use everything, I just want to have everything here in one spot, and then I will just pick a few items and start my art journal process. So it's inspired by fall, and so I have collected some leaves, and I just love the texture, I love the color, and so they're beautiful little yellows, oranges. I have these really pretty metallic watercolors, and I also have acrylic paint in beautiful burnt sienna. This one is called Rose Portrait Pink, and some buff titanium, some golds. So I really want to follow the autumn colors. That's really what inspires me. And I have the color palette here, so I will have a lot of the reds and oranges. So this side here, the left side of the color wheel. But then I will also try and get something from the opposite side of the color wheel, greens and blues, like cooler tones, because I think that goes really well with these warmer golden tones. It just makes it a little bit more interesting, I think, to have an accent with a cool color. So that's something. Then yeah, gray as well. And here I have some ink pads in brown, because I really like to use, now we're already moving on to the papers, I like it to color the ripped, the torn edges from the paper. Yes, so the other important thing, of course, this is the paper for the collage part. So I love to have some neutrals, these kind of vintage ephemera, and a different texture paper with writing on it, music sheets, yeah, old book pages. Maybe I'm going to use this tag, I'm not quite sure. And then I also have some other scrap paper. Let's move this away a little bit. This is from just some paintings I did, and I just tore strips apart. Like I have some strips that I can use as collage paper, and then this here is, for example, from a beautiful piece of wrapping paper. So I'm looking again for the color palette, and then maybe again to bring in is kind of a cooler tone, a gray, green, a mix of gray, green, and blue, I guess. And then together with these kinds of cream colors. And then there's also a few pieces from like magazine images that I found kind of inspirational to tell a little bit of a story. Maybe then I will include an actual real leaf. Yeah, just have to see how that goes. I just really love these kinds of still lifes, you can almost say, and then using them as an inspiration. And then lots of tiny little scrap pieces. They are really good, you know, to build a collage. And yeah, then some pens, brushes, of course. It's always a black, and some of this kind of flesh color. Yeah, and I also have different tools of how I will apply paint. I really like using sponges and palette knives. Here's just like a nice brush to put down paint. And I also have this. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it. It might be too much. These are just some abstract studies that I could like cut out a square and maybe also include it in the collage. Just the reds or the browns. I just have to see. All of this is available to use. And then of course I have some matte medium to attach the paper for gluing, and I have transparent gesso, but I think I might work directly on the pages of the journal. But I'm definitely going to use some white gesso for some color mixing in case the colors that I have here are not really working so well. Okay, so here I have all my color inspirations. I have the warm tones, and here I have those colors, the warm colors, and then I'm going to sample them a little bit on this just piece of paper before I actually go and paint in my journal, because I want to find out how these colors that I imagine, how they really look together. And on the right side I will just play a little bit and kind of sample or swatch the cooler tones. And I have some white gesso here, and I might add a tiny speck of black in case I want to make these a little bit darker, more grayish. Yeah, let's see. So I have my water here, and I'm going to take a little brush, and I'm going to start with the warm colors. Oops. So that's almost like a little bit like this color. And then I have this here, which is kind of dried out already, yellow ochre. And so that could be some of this color. And then I have one of my favorite colors of all time, which is burnt sienna. And a little bit of raw amber. And I have this portrait pink, that's what it's called. So those are a little bit more on the lighter side. It's so much fun to play with the paint and the colors. So you can see this is actually a little bit of a cooler tone. It says powder rose or powder pink, but I find it's a little bit cooler. So on this side, I'm going to put some of the, actually I'm putting out way too much. I'm wasting paint here, but I'm just really curious to see what they look like. And some gray. So this is a warm gray, it actually says, so that should be more on this side. And then here I have a light gray. Let's see. Oops, a bit too much. And I really like this blue here. So let's see. I'm just going to smudge these a bit. And then we have this. And even lighter. This is a bit more of a warm as well. And then this beautiful color. And this one here, which is quite dried out. It's beautiful yellow, I love it. And this very bright kind of orange. And then on the other side, sorry if my camera is shaking because I'm quite vigorously cleaning my brushes. And here we have these gray tones. Just way too much. Actually, I want to see how they look over here. And this one is a bit more greenish. I think I really like this color. Yeah, I do think they go together. Bring some of these ones over here. Yeah, I think this blue is a bit too bright. Let's see. I have this blue here. And I'm gonna bring in the white. And some of this to make it a bit more grayish and not so bright. It's still quite bright. The blue feels too summery. I don't know what you think, but let's see. This maybe goes better with these tones here. These images. The blue won't go with this, but with the green. Maybe even like mixing them. And I'm also going to be blending them much more. Yeah, I think this is a better palette. I think this works. So I'm not sure if I'm even going to use this paper. Maybe. Okay, so, and then of course with white, I can just tone everything down a little bit. So there's nothing scientific here. I'm just gonna add now some white gesso and just do some blending and see how I can tone everything down a little bit to be not such a bright and busy background for my collage and the other painting that I want to do on top of it. Okay, so let's move on to the journal. This is the one I'm going to be using. It's already quite full. I've filled about 3/4 of the journal pages, and I'm going to probably not gesso the pages as I usually do. I think I'm just gonna paint directly on the pages as they are. Now the left page is going to be a bit challenging because it's so bulky, because I've done already so much. But anyways, I cannot stop here. I have to finish the journal. At least that's what I want to do. So let's see how it works. So now I'm just starting with putting the paint down, and I'm using various tools like a brush, and then I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna be using a sponge. And there's not really a technique, it's more like intuitive painting what I'm doing now, or coloring the pages. And it's like creating a little bit of a mixed, it's basically creating an abstract background with the colors that I have previously chosen. And I'm just playing, and it's really intuitive. I don't have a certain picture of the background in mind, and I just love watching the colors again, how they blend, how they look, how they go together, and feeling inspired and just enjoying the delicious colors. And I really love getting in with my hands, painting with my fingers. It just feels so sensuous to actually touch the paint, and it's also like an initiation process for me. It really gets me in touch with the paper, with the paint. It's like I like this expression, getting in touch with, and this is really what it is. And it almost feels like the intuitive gesture, the gesture and the expression comes out more directly through the fingers, through the hand, instead of using any other. Yeah, as you can see, I also like to experiment with whatever other tools they are. But just to go back to using the fingers and the hands like directly, it's a direct contact with the page, it's a direct gestural expression onto the paper, like the direct emotion. And getting to know the material. And then I really mix it up with different tools for making marks and applying the color and blending. And yeah, here you can see just you can make different marks with the brushes depending whether they have like round tip or like You can make more like vertical or horizontal lines with it. And again, I'm not thinking too much. It's an intuitive process of what wants to go where and what color is next and what application tool is next. And this is kind of the first stage for me of getting into my art journal pages and what I want to create today. It's like the prelude, so to speak. Okay, so the pages are dry now and they are quite busy and the colors are quite intense. And if I now want to bring in collage, I think it would be too distracting the background, even if I go extremely simple. With my neutral colors, I feel I want to tone this down a little bit, and I'm gonna do that with a little bit of white gesso and maybe mixing a little bit of mint. And I'm thinking of maybe only creating collage on this side and doing just a little bit more mixed media, like drawing on here or stamping, or maybe I will use this page just for some dried flowers. So, but I think both of them need a little bit of toning down. So I'm gonna put this here on my palette. And I have to make sure that I don't cover too much. So actually what I'm gonna do first is I'm going to go in with some transparent gesso. And just covering up a little bit. I'm removing a bit with a wet sponge. I'm gonna just make sure it's not completely lost the colors underneath. Shining through a little bit again. And the same here. And I'm mixing in a little bit of the transparent gesso because that is a nice primer for drawing or doing some even more coloring, maybe some wax crayons, or it can also go in and create a pattern, some flowers, or even like that leaf. Yeah, you have to do this quite fast before the paint and the gesso dry, which goes quite fast with the acrylic. Yeah, so I kind of want to, I think this is turning a little bit into a landscape, into a fall landscape. Not quite sure what these are, but okay, yeah, so here more color is coming through. But I can always go back afterwards and color. So here I did too much. The paper is breaking, you have to be careful. So I just leave this for now. And let's see, is this one dry? Yeah, so on the other side, I might even put this here afterwards. I don't know yet. It's all work in progress still at this point. But I think this page here is ready for, so I feel like I want to do something really simple. I'm not sure about this. So this is, this can be quite a lengthy trial and error now. Well, not trial and error, it's actually, you know, finding a way. So it will take me some time. I'm gonna go through everything now and see what will work. What do I want to keep? Do I want to use actually more on the page than I originally had intended? So maybe like this. I don't want to bring in too much. Just little bits and pieces. Music, autumn piece. Not sure. What about this house? Kind of like this house here. Kind of want the story to emerge through the materials that I'm using. I often like to bring in some black and white too, to neutralize again, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary here. And I usually always tear my paper. Be a bit of layering here. Actually like some of that pink sky to look through, so okay, I think this might just be all that I want to use. Something like that. Yeah, I think I really like this. Yes, so before I glue everything down with the matte gel, I'm actually going to use some of this along the edges where there are white spots. This is quite a reddish brown, but it goes, I guess it goes with the red in the image below. It's a little bit too red for me, so I'm gonna go for black. Gives it a bit more contour as well. don't think it's too harsh. All the colors are rather soft, but because these black lines are very delicate, it's not going to be too much, I think. Yeah, so I'm going to do it with the rest of the papers too, and then I'll glue everything down. So now here I am with the matte medium. Make sure I don't lose the composition like I often do. I think this might have even been like going like this. I don't remember. How was it? Oh my god, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't worry so much about the air bubbles. The paper will straighten out later again. So, but what I want to do here, kind of want these lines to match up here, just a little bit. And then there was the house, I think it was here. These two, let's see, how would they go? Like this and like this, I think. I now would also like to talk a little bit about how I collage, the intuitive collage process that I practice. I have chosen all of these elements, all of these images completely intuitively, and I find that they always tell a story. I didn't say, oh, I want to have a house in there, or I want to have a woods in there, or I just, some higher self creative soul part of me just randomly picked those images and scrap papers. And also the way that I put them together, yes, I do know a little bit about, the principle of composition, but even that, I find most people are quite good at doing this intuitively. And it's a lot of playing around and moving things around until they feel right. But when it comes to the storytelling part of collage, I don't think about the story beforehand. That's also how I created my oracle deck, the collages that I made for my oracle deck. I didn't start with a theme and then created the collage, but I did it the other way around. I created a collage intuitively. I used the images and colors and symbols that I was just mostly drawn to at that moment. and I allowed the story and the message to evolve as I was creating. And when the card was finished, I knew what oracle card it was, what the theme was, what the title would be. And that's how I've always approached collage, unless I took some workshops or classes with other artists. They usually start by starting with a theme, and then you look for collage images on colors and stuff that you feel fit that theme. I often find that kind of restricting, and I get frustrated easily because I feel it's again about this thing, it has to look a certain way, or what is it that people associate with a certain theme, and it can be so much different for every person. And when I became a soul collage facilitator, or actually when I started to practice soul collage, which is a very amazing and creative intuitive method, you also start, you just pull and select the images that you feel intuitively drawn to, that seem to be picking and choosing you, and then later you go in and you ask the images who they are and what story they are telling and what messages they have for you. And it just spoke to my heart so much, and because I felt, yeah, this is how I create my art already. I discover the story and the message and the meaning once it's been created. And I just love that, because there's so much surprise, there's so much synchronicity, there's so much freedom in that, and it's such a mysterious process. At the end, something has emerged that you just allow to come forth. I guess it's also a little bit of a spiritual experience. That's how I approach making art. I just allow the stories from the inside to become visible on the outside. And then once I have the basics down, I just see, aesthetically what are the finishing touches. Here, for example, I really, really love how this leaf seems to grow out of the roof or the top of the house. And I don't think about it at this moment what it means. Right now, I just like it there. And I love integrating an organic material like this drying leaf, and I have those dried flowers, and they bring in this touch of yellow, and I just see where they want to be. Okay, so now here I have some pretty little metallic watercolors, which I just adore. And I think they go really nice with what's going on here. Some gold. I might actually paint this leaf a little bit in a metallic. And then we also have this, it's a little bit going on here. And some of the green also matches. So I think I'm going to use these colors for this page, and also maybe around here a little bit. And then I want to write the word autumn on here and glue it on here. And maybe... So that's an idea. This is like a charcoal pencil. And I also have these beautiful gold foil flakes. They might go on here as well. And yeah, but I'm gonna start painting on this page first, just creating a little bit of a landscape here on the left side. So here I'm back and I need to finish this page and then I want to paint on this page. So I found this little piece and I kind of wanted to place that somewhere here because it ties in with the black and white of the house. But where to put it? I really like it there, but then I remembered I wanted to add this thing where it says autumn, but then I feel it's all would be too much. So would this fit somewhere else? Or this, I liked it in the middle, but then where does this go? I don't want to cover up the little gold dots here. Or maybe here. There's also an opening here. But I don't want it to be too all just verticals and horizontals. I like to just play a little bit more and create a different line, a different flow. Just don't know where. So maybe this could go somewhere else. How was it like this? Or maybe there doesn't even have to go any words. I'm gonna just write down the word autumn and see what it looks like then, if I like it. So I have this waterproof pen so that I can just go over it with a little bit watercolor wash if I want to, if I end up using it. And I'm gonna use the lines here. They come in handy to autumn. Ooh, my hand slipped there a little bit. I think I'm gonna leave this out. I think I'm gonna leave this out. I hardly ever put any writing into my collages. So, but I do want this piece here. That's what I know for sure at this moment. So I'm actually just quickly glue that on there with that glue stick. And the white is really white, so I'm probably going to go over there with a little bit of a little wash, of like a gray wash. Let's see. Yeah. By the way, I wanted to show you, when I have paint here, leftover paint, I don't throw it away, but I just take a piece of paper and I do like some mono printing to get that remaining paint off, and then I let it dry, and then I can use it for some other collage elements later on, or I can like tear little pieces and use it in another collage. So that's just another tip what to do with all this leftover color and paint on your palette. Okay, so I'm gonna see, I just need a tiny little bit. This is like this warm gray. Yeah. And where did I put the lid? This is always what's happening to me. I'm losing the lids. Okay, I'm just gonna put this aside for a second. And I'm gonna bring in a lot of water. Just want to like see how I can tone this really harsh white and bring it a little bit more into the gray area, like the house here. The house is also a little bit, it's more gray, a very light gray, and not that's dark white. Yeah, so I think I like that. Okay. Any excess paint I just take off. All right. So this is by far not done. A little bit of transparent gesso once again to put on top of that last piece of paper, because once all of this is dry here on this page, I'm going to bring in everything together with some, maybe some pastels here, some chalk pastels. Oh, here's the lid. And just see because it's very flat right now, so I prefer to, you know, it needs a little bit of blending in all the edges, the transitions here. I want to blend them in either with a little bit of watercolor or the pastels, which I really like, the chalk pastels. Just blending and smudging, one of my favorite things. Okay, so now I want to first focus on this side. I want to get into painting, and this time, even though I have some colors here, I'm not going to restrict myself and say this is going to be my palette and I plan exactly what I do, because when I paint, and usually also when I do collages, I do not really think so much about what I'm going to do in advance, but I want to work completely intuitively. So, and I'm putting on some music, I'm putting on a candle.
You say take me on a treasure hunt, I long for something new. Have you heard the fairies when they sing and dance? Oh, I wish it was me every night. When I close my eyes, I see beauty lives in me. I know I don't yet know it, so I trust you when you say that beauty lives in me. So I trust you when you say that beauty lives in me too. Beauty lives in me. I know I don't yet know it, so I trust you when you say that beauty lives in me too.
So I would actually like to talk a little bit about my philosophy of the creative process and how I approach everything intuitively and from the heart space. I think that's really different from how we learn art at school or how it's being taught at art school, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but a lot of times we actually lose the joy of creating because we think it has to look a certain way, or we feel we need techniques to make something look like others are doing it. We compare our art to other artists, especially on social media. We think, oh no, I need to take a course first. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to paint. And actually, that can be so stifling, and it can really keep us from expressing ourselves creatively. And I started completely as a self-taught artist, and I love learning techniques, and especially just learning about how the materials and the mediums work. But you can do all of that just by exploring, by experimenting, and making mistakes is how you learn the most. And it's not really a mistake, it's just an experiment that leads you to surprising new discoveries. And you can always paint over it, or you can turn it into something else. And so what I want to convey is, don't feel like you need a certain training or knowledge to get started with art journaling or any other form of creative expression. Like I said in the beginning, I usually don't even put out all the colors, like in terms of creating a color palette first, and really thinking about what I want to create or having a theme. I just allow whatever wants to come out to come out. I just allow myself to play, and I let my intuition and my imagination, like the artist's soul inside of me, take over. And it's like it just flows through my hand, and I really like to put on some music that inspires me. I like to light a candle and really get into that meditative, relaxing state of mind, and then just allow what wants to come up and what wants to be expressed on the page come out. And that's how I feel free, that's how I have fun. And it's also a very mystical experience, somehow a spiritual experience, just allowing the innate creative intuition to come out and express itself in ways that you haven't even thought of before. It's nice sometimes to have themes, or like to have an overall theme, like I have here. The theme is autumn, but actually it started with the colors, and I just I allow it to turn into something else if it's not looking like fall anymore, like the theme. If other things come up, then I'm gonna include them. Then I'm not gonna say, oh no, this doesn't fit the autumn theme. Or I might suddenly feel like, yeah, but there needs to be a different color in here that I haven't really thought of thinking of using. So, and then I'm gonna go for it. I'm not gonna restrict myself. If, and then if it turns out to be a color that doesn't really fit, it doesn't matter. Yes, I do know a little bit about how colors work together and not how to make them muddy and stuff, but in your art journal, it's like you can experiment, you can try, that's how you learn what goes together and what doesn't go together, what blends well or what turns into mud. It's a place of freedom. It's not a place of restriction. It's really this amazing place of free creative expression. That's what the art journal is for me. And that's how I enjoy the process. And yeah, I feel it's really important that I talk about this, because I was thinking a lot of times, what can I teach? What can how would I create a tutorial? Because I'm not about teaching techniques. And that's not how I teach. How I teach is I want to inspire you to develop and experiment and play on your own terms, and really losing that fear of the inner critic and of perfectionism. And if you do this on a daily basis, or at least you make one day a week where you say, I'm going to create today in my art journal, then you will also get so much better in terms of feeling more confident, feeling more comfortable with using colors or with painting or with collage. So yeah, this is an invitation to feel inspired and to just go with the flow and get lost in the joy of working with colors and patterns and shapes and materials. So now it's time for the finishing touches, just some more coloring here and there, just some accents. And this part is just bringing everything together, and I just add a little bit more color here and there and a little bit more paint. Whatever feels like to bring everything together, I will just do that. And I really felt like also adding some metallic watercolor onto the leaf, because it wasn't really as beautifully brightly colored yet as I wanted it to be naturally. So this is also a wonderful process of, when you're like on the home stretch and you're finishing your piece and you see how it really comes together in the final touches. So I just let you watch this, the final scenes, so to speak, how I'm using different mediums, and I just really play and just try to make everything even more magical and beautiful and coherent, using pastels, metallic watercolors. Then I'm also doing some outlining with you can use either a colored, like a watercolor pencil that you can then activate with a little bit of water with a brush. Yeah, it's basically whatever your favorite mediums are, you just play and bring everything together. And I'm really looking also to bring in a little bit of shading, like the light and the shades, contouring with some darker colors, and really bringing in the accents. So I just invite you to watch this part with some music. And then I remember that I actually used this image of the house before in one of my oracle cards called Change. It was part of an image that I found on a postcard, and I had several of them, and so I love using it again, and I think it goes so well with the theme of autumn. Because the seasons are changing and the leaves are falling, and we are also constantly changing. So I'm really pleased with how it turned out.
You say take me on a treasure hunt. I long for something new. Have you heard the fairies when they sing and dance? Oh, I wish it was me every night. When I close my eyes, I see
So thank you for watching and listening. I hope you find this inspiring and you are starting to create also in your art journal or start an art journal. I hope that you feel motivated to create from your heart, from your intuition and your imagination. And I would love it if you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell and comment and let me know if you have created something that was inspired by this video. Thank you so much and until soon.